Best way to understand Zionism, it's a European nationalist movement. It was basically atheistic, secularized Jews who hated Orthodox Judaism, who hated what Jews had been, and blamed those Jews for anti-Semitism, for the suffering of Jews throughout the centuries and millennium. And so they invented the concept of Jewish nationhood. And so in order to do that, they needed a mythology. They used the theology of the Jewish religion and secularized it. As Prometheus took fire from the gods, Zionists took the holy aspects of Judaism and made it into something that could be accomplished by political means. And Theodor Herzl went to Arthur Balfour in Britain, and he went to Tsar Nicholas in Russia, both of whom were raging anti-Semites. Tsar Nicholas had actually overseen pogroms of Jews in the Pale of Settlement, which is where my ancestors come from. May they rest in peace. They were all murdered Nazis in the Holocaust. And so these waves of emigration began because basically European anti-Semites wanted to get rid of Jews, and Zionists also wanted to see a Judenrein Europe, a Jew-free Europe. So Zionists and anti-Semites always had a common agenda of getting rid of all Jews from Europe.
We had several other people in the country, even among the Jews, the Zionists particularly, who were against anything that was to be done if they couldn't have the whole of Palestine and everything handed to them on a silver plate so they wouldn't have to do anything. It couldn't be done. We had to take it in small doses. You can't move 5 or 6 million people out of a country and fill it up with 5 or 6 million more and expect both sets of them to be pleased. We had all sorts of objections to everything that was done. Something had to be done. We went ahead and done it. I don't think that decision to recognize Israel was an easy one. I had to make a compromise with the Arabs and divide Palestine.
Can you tell us specifically that a lot of Jewish people were against you too?
Oh, well, there were a lot of Jewish people against me because they wanted the whole of Palestine. As I say, they wanted to drive all the Arabs into the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Live on Channel 5, this is the 10 o'clock news with Deborah Norville.
Coming out revealing secret negotiation between the Nazis and the Zionists in 1933, which allowed German Jews and their assets to go to Palestine. Rich Samuels joins us tonight with the story of the controversy behind the book and the author's struggle to write it. Rich?
Deborah, with the rise of Adolf Hitler to power in the spring of 1933, the Jews of the world were faced with a dilemma. They could raise a cry of protest, a cry few would heed, or they could make a deal with Hitler, a deal that would bring a step closer to their dream of an independent Jewish state.
American Jews marched calling for the boycott of all German exports. Jews throughout Europe echoed that call, so did Jews everywhere. But a group of Zionists at the same time was quietly negotiating an agreement with the Nazis to allow the immigration of German Jews and the transfer of their assets to Palestine. That deal, reported in August 1933, was the transfer agreement. Palestine, sparsely settled by Jews at the time, was radically changed as a result.
I lived in Palestine from 1933 to 1936, and we saw every week transports of German Jews coming to settle in Palestine.
German Jewish settlement of Palestine was, for a time, official Nazi policy. These photos of Jewish life in Palestine, along with a lengthy text, appeared in 1934 in the Berlin paper Der Angriff. A Nazi Visits Palestine was the title of the multi-part series. A medal was struck by Goebbels in commemoration. On one side, the swastika. On the other, the Star of David. Hitler demanded one concession for the transfer agreement, that the call for a boycott of the Reich, raised by Jews here and elsewhere, be rejected by the Zionists. The Zionists made that concession. And so, while Nazis were marching in Germany, and while Jews were marching here, diplomacy was letting a more important story. In the Mediterranean, where the dream of a nation-state for Jewish people came a step closer to reality.